The Fédération Aéronautique Internationale defines spaceflight as any flight above the Kármán line, or 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface.
Karmic line?
Kármán. It's got like
Kármán.
accent aigu, Kármán line. Like, yeah.
No, I know what that is, but it sounds great. And it sounds very exotic.
Don't worry, it will never...
Space is European. That's very clear to me already.
It will never come up in this podcast again, except in the next 4 seconds where I say it's above 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface.
So that's space.
That's space. Weirdly, the US Air Force gives the astronauts wings for getting above 80 kilometers above.
Yeah, but they salute people without wearing hats too. Their military's all messed up.
So anyway, 100 kilometers.
They call NCOs sir. It's wrong. So of course they give them an easy break on their astronaut wings. Anyway.
As of today, 21st of August 2020, a grand total of 566 people from 41 countries have achieved the spectacular feat of 100 kilometers, getting to space.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. 566.
If you told me 10,500, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds right.
It's kind of hard.
You got to try.
You do got to try. So of those 566, 3 people completed a suborbital flight. So kind of not moving fast enough or moving in the wrong direction to actually go into orbit. So bit lame. Still cool. You got to space. You're above 100 Ks. I haven't done it, but it's not really good. 563 have done the Earth orbit. So either up with the space station or they're like Yuri Gagarin. They're going around. Wasn't Yuri Gagarin? Doesn't matter.
He was the first orbiter, wasn't he? And then
he was the first person to space. He might not be the first orbiter. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Again, don't quote those details in this podcast. I'm going to talk about some other facts, different facts, just the facts that
alternative facts.
Yeah, not alternative. The right facts. Here we go. So where we go. 24 have traveled below low Earth orbit, which I think basically means they've probably orbited the moon. So
below low Earth orbit,
beyond low
beyond,
Earth,
right.
beyond. So low Earth orbit is like in the 100K and above, maybe 500 Ks. Low Earth orbit, I think, is going a fair bit further, going out towards the moon. So there's a whole bunch of people, not a whole bunch, 24, who have been orbiting around the moon, and then 12 have walked on the moon. That's our grand total of astronauts.
God, that is shit.
12.
It's one of the things that I'm most angry about the world. I'm like, seriously, I was propped up in front of the moon landing when I was, soiling myself and didn't care. I think I was, like 11 months old or something stupid. And since then, we've done...
Well, the other fact that always blows my mind about the moon landing, every single landing on the moon happened while Nixon was president.
Is that right?
Every single one was when Nixon, and it's like Nixon actually had a shorter term as president than some presidents. He didn't make the 8 years; he got to about 5 years, and so all of them happened during that window, and it just does my head in. So here we go.
He was a visionary.
He was. Of those, 61% or 345 have been American. The next biggest country, can you guess?
Russia.
Yes, Russian or Soviet. 121, so 22% of them have been Russian or Soviet. So that adds up to 83% of all astronauts, American or Soviet Russian.
Yeah.
Then we've got a whole other bunch of countries. So 12 Japanese people.
China and Japanese.
No, Japan is third. And then equal fourth place is German and Chinese. So 11 Germans, 11 Chinese.
There you go, Germany.
Next comes France, 10. 9 Canadians and 7 Italians.
Ooh.
Okay. A bunch of countries have sent 2 people, and we're going to get some weird countries in this list, yes, and the next list is going to get a little bit interesting. So
let me go Burkina Faso.
Not quite, but not far off. Really not far off. So the countries that have sent 2 people, Bulgaria, Belgium, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, India, and Israel.
I love the UK only got 2.
Well, and the thing...
How's your empire now, fellas?
Well, the thing that blows my mind about that is the way that they got there too is really quite surprising. And it's just an aside for this story. I'll give it to you in a second because it connects with a whole lot of countries have sent 1 person to space. They include Afghanistan, Brazil, Cuba, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Denmark, Poland, Romania, Spain, Switzerland, Hungary, Malaysia, Mexico, Mongolia, Saudi Arabia, Slovakia, South Africa, South Korea, Syria, the United Arab Emirates, and Vietnam.
Wait, you said Czechoslovakia and then Slovakia.
Look, actually, it's true. There was one person sent while it was Czechoslovakia, and I think one person sent while it was Slovakia. So you could...
So 2 Czechs.
Well, no, he could have been a Slovak. The Czechness is
No,
there.
no, they don't exist anymore.
I don't know about they
might,
split.
they might.
So anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, if you're wondering about all of those not so rich countries like Mongolia and Afghanistan, I would not have thought Afghanistan would have had
Bulgaria are renowned for their wealth.
more astronauts than Australia. Australia kind of has an astronaut, but not quite.
Is it you?
No. We've had one guy who's born in Adelaide who has been to space, but he took out American citizenship to be able to go. So he had to actually revoke his Australian citizenship, so can't count as Australian. But there was this nice Soviet program in the 70s and 80s called Intercosmos. Not into,
do go on.
Intercosmos.
You have my attention.
Where they took all their buddies into space. It's like, oh, who wants to go this year? Mongolia. We want to go. And in fact, this is the way that the United Kingdom has got some of their people into space. So screw the special relationship that United Kingdom has with America. America has never taken anyone from the United Kingdom into space. It was the Intercosmos program that got the first United Kingdom astronaut up into space, and then the second one was a paid space tourist, I think. Anyway.
Isn't it lucky that England joined the Soviet Union briefly then? That went well for them.
Indeed, the Warsaw Pact countries. I really would have thought that would have been one of the advantages. You know, you're in NATO, give us a couple of astronauts. Come on. But America never did. Okay, 65 of these space travelers have been women. Okay, and something like I
would have expected actually.
Yeah, it was probably it's about 10%. So just above 10%. So not the worst numbers in the world. Something like seven of them, and I of course can't confirm this, have been smugglers. So the 1965 flight of Gemini 3 was probably like all rocket flights back then, a groundbreaking flight. So it was the first time that NASA had launched a buddy comedy. It was the first time they had 2 people going up into space at the same time.
Were they comically different or comedically insanely different?
You know they weren't. You know that they were super bland white guys. Like they were
exactly the same height, exactly the same weight, same head size,
with squared away haircuts. Like they were that guy. They were. Yeah. So no, they were not buddy cop differences. They were just the first time they could make a capsule that had 2 people in it. The Soviets won that race as well. Something like the year before they'd done a threesome.
They did.
And the week before they'd done a twosome. So the Soviets did 3 before they did 2, which is cool.
Wow, that's quite inquisitive.
It really is. It really
Good
is.
for them.
But you brave, I guess. I don't know.
Having seen the size of those capsules, like at the Smithsonian and stuff, the idea of being in there alone, better yet with 1 or 2 other people, bury me alive, it would be the same thing.
No. I want to be there with someone. Like, I don't want to be alone.
No, I get that.
I want to have a chat. I would get...
It's small.
I'd be checking out what's outside. What's outside if I'm too lonely?
You start thinking about the reality of your situation. Yeah. I don't want to do that anymore.
I'm a long way up. It's very, very high.
And things are hot, and now they're black, and now they're cold.
This is a digression, but I watched that National Geographic documentary on the dude that solo no rope climbed up El Cap in Yosemite, like the biggest wall, the biggest cliff face, and it's a great documentary, well worth looking. But there's this moment, and they describe it beautifully beforehand. This is the hardest bit. And my mind, I'm visualizing. My hands are going all sweaty. I'm watching this, and I'm going, no, too hard. I would just let go at that point. I would just go, no, this is seriously. Okay, so that's the way my brain works when I think about deep outer space. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'd go into space on the Enterprise at the drop of a hat, but in a tiny little tin can with a Casio watch as the main computer and stuff, yeah, not so much. I think that's pushing.
So this was the first 2-person flight for NASA, and it was also
Gemini.
This is Gemini number 3.
Three. Okay.
So they were testing some new stuff. There was new thrusters. This was the first time they'd actually changed the trajectory of the orbit, or something like that. So that was really cool. But the mission became famous in the long run for something else that was a little bit more, I don't know, prosaic, really. So the two astronauts on board were John Young and Gus Grissom.
Grissom! Okay, him I've heard of.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, John Young you should have heard of, because he's like one of NASA's best ever astronauts. Even though he started his career here a little bit dodgy.
He's related to Angus and Malcolm Young from AC/DC, right?
Probably. All of the young people.
It's not a common name.
So you can imagine this. They've blasted off. They're out in orbit. They've relaxed a little, and they've popped the visors on their helmets. I've got a photograph here, but I can't show it because my printer's run out of ink. They've popped the visors on their helmets, and they're relaxing. Maybe they've loosened their seatbelts, and they've popped down their tray tables to have their lunch.
Or the onboard snacks. Yeah.
But rather than reaching for their tube of NASA-issued protein paste, Young reached down into the pocket of his spacesuit and pulled something out. "What is it?" Grissom asked. "Corned beef sandwich," Young replied. "Where did that come from?" Grissom asked. "I brought it with me. Let's see how it tastes. Smells, doesn't it?" So apparently, he brought a sandwich with him.
That's saucy. Corned beef sandwich.
Of all of the sandwiches in all the world, you're like, I'm going to space. What are you going to take? A corned beef sandwich.
With margarine on white bread. Like, this, no flavour at all.
To be honest, I can't show you this, but the bread looks quite nice. They've preserved not the sandwich, but a replica of the sandwich from the same place. I'm going to need to see that verified. And it looks quite nice. Like it's a nice looking piece of bread.
Sure.
But they did complain that there was no mustard and no pickles. So anyway, so apparently their friend, the astronaut prankster Wally Schirra, which is
Wally.
What a great nickname. You are the astronaut prankster. Had bought it from a Florida deli called Wolfie's Restaurant and Sandwich Shop. I think he bought it 2 days before, so it's getting a little bit stale by this point. And just before,
who cares? It's a space sandwich. It's got to be delicious.
Just before launch, he'd snuck it to Young and said, "Here, take this, put it in your pocket." So Young put it in his pocket, and he thought, "All right, that'll be fun. I'll pop it out midway through the launch." Grissom had a bite, but he quickly put it back in his pocket. Because it was starting to break up all over the place. And remember, they're in zero gravity here.
Oh, Jesus.
And the crumbs from this, it's a crumbly looking rye sandwich. It's starting to break off and float all over the place. Normally NASA would cover
What do you got, bag of Doritos? No.
So they put it back together, and when they landed, they said, "Look, it was a good idea, but not the best idea." It wasn't a great sandwich. No mustard, no pickles. And then they received an official reprimand from NASA, which I don't know quite what that looks like. They were brought before the before Congress, the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations, in which one person had said, "That's a $30 million sandwich," and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it isn't.
No, it's not. It's not.
Like, they didn't launch for the purposes of taking the sandwich.
No.
The sandwich did not come from an experimental reactor.
Although they did ruin a little bit of experimentation, because one of the things that they were meant to be doing is trying space food up there, see how they can eat and stuff like that. So maybe they ruined their appetite a tiny bit by having the sandwich. I don't know.
You're fired, son.
I just love that so the replica is preserved in acrylic at the Gus Grissom Memorial Museum in Indiana. It's like, all right, fair enough. It's a little bit of history. So anyway, don't worry. John Young went on to have an amazing space career. He went to the moon. He commanded the space shuttle. So it didn't affect his career at all. So I got a couple of other space smugglers for you. So here's another one. In 1962, the astronaut Gordon Cooper hid a packet of Tareyton cigarettes and a mini bottle of Cuddy-Sark Scotch behind Wally Schirra's instrument panel.
Durries?
Durries, yeah, up in space.
What I want to do now is I want to get this naked flame going in our space capsule.
I don't know.
What do you do? And if it gets smoky, you open the window. Like, what are they? Okay, it's just for the fun of it, isn't it? They're just being little high
Just for the fun.
Kids.
Just for the fun.
Yeah.
I think they weren't dumb enough to do that, because I'm not sure what year it was when Mercury was a test capsule on the rocket bed that exploded with the astronauts in it because they had pure oxygen. So not good. Not good. But I think many years later, the cigarettes were actually auctioned So
I bet they were.
Later, 1965 again, Wally Shearer, the prankster, he smuggled aboard a harmonica. And he played a little joke on mission control. He said, "Oh, look ahead. There's a command module with 8 smaller modules in the front. The pilot of the command module is wearing a red suit." It was nearly Christmas. He was doing a little Christmas joke.
Oh, okay.
And then he played Jingle Bells on his harmonica.
Oh, what a card.
I know. It was the first musical instrument played in space. So that's something.
That is definitely something.
1969. The Apollo 12 astronauts smuggled aboard a Playboy centerfold.
The woman?
No, not the woman. The picture, which
I was going to say, what's that? Nothing.
really cool. Really cool,
sandwich?
guys. Like it's just come on, guys. Come on, calm down.
Stop being woke. They're a couple of square-jawed lads. They haven't had any,
masturbation
loving for quite a while.
And I know it's a 9-day mission. They'll need to do masturbation. I don't know.
That's the Peter Griffin freaking Family Guy. He gets a space shuttle. He goes into space, and he said he interfered with himself at one point. He says it's a terrible idea. It was like a snow globe in there. That's all.
Look. You know that some NASA boffin has wondered about this. So,
someone has definitely beaten off in space. I have no doubt.
Yeah,
at least one of these dudes.
There was that guy that was up in was it the Mir space station when the Soviet Union collapsed, and he was up there for an extra 150 days or something dumb.
Oh yeah.
So he ended up being up there for 300 days or something weird. Of course, and he was by himself. I mean, God, that is such a mind meld. Like, okay.
I hope there are experiments. There must be papers on that somewhere.
Sadly, listener, Rod, I haven't done that research today, but that is now on my squad goals list.
Stay tuned for part B of this episode.
All right. So, okay, here's another one. 1972, Apollo 15. They were reprimanded by NASA for smuggling 400 specially stamped and cancelled envelopes to the moon and back. They had given 100 of these to a German stamp dealer for $150,000 that would be paid to the astronauts in a trust fund for their children. It was some sort of weird stamp scam. I don't even understand how it works.
Oh no, I can imagine. I mean, if people are prepared to believe it, stamp collectors will do all kinds of things. So it's like these have actually been to the moon.
Yeah,
no sanctioned stamp has ever been further. Blah blah blah.
Of course.
Give me $1 million.
No, absolutely. So I think there were actually they took a bunch of sanctioned stamps that NASA was going to give out to schools and things like that to say this stamp's been to the moon. And one of them was actually stamped with like a moon post office or something weird. But yeah, they decided.
The intern gets that job. Can you make like a moon post office stamp? What? I have a master's degree in physics, nuclear engineering. You want me to make a post office stamp from the moon?
Yes. You're a problem solver. That's what your master's degree. Yeah, exactly. So the money never got in, and NASA got really cranky off them. It made the papers. So, okay.
Well, it does sound a little bit like corruption.
Only literally.
A little, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole, we'll put it into a trust fund for your children. It's
okay. It's for my baby.
Not like that, but no legitimate business says we'll put it into a trust fund for your children. Like there is no scenario, okay, except for potentially in a will where it is to the children.
Yeah.
But no one.
It's not the same.
No, I'll pay. Can you do my driveway? Oh, yeah, I'll put it in a trust fund for your children.
Yeah, it's not weird. And if you're not a direct beneficiary, no one will ask any questions. Why would they ask any questions? No reason. Okay, cool.
I just like paying that way. That's my way of paying.
Yeah, it's what I do. It's my thing. It's my kink.
I couldn't find many stories of Soviet smuggling. There's one. I wouldn't be surprised.
Too many, probably. They didn't bother writing them down.
Possibly. Or maybe they were very disciplined. They were more square-jawed, more squared away, more... there's one in 1978 when Alexander Ivanchenkov, he was the engineer... I know. Engineer on the 79-day Soyuz mission. He smuggled some brandy-filled chocolates in a box of candy. So he was taking a box of candy anyway, and his wife had put some extra brandy-filled ones in there, which...
And just one with a roofie and one with some ecstasy.
Maybe. Apparently, they opened the box, and because it was so jam full of candies, they exploded all over the space station. It took them 2 hours to retrieve all the candies. Which what else are you doing?
You're licking them off the walls. I'm guessing you're getting booze up there and putting booze in your body in space. I mean, inquiring minds want to know.
I think it was
probably not a great idea.
and probably not beloved. It wasn't on the first priority of testing for either NASA or Communist NASA, whatever it was called.
Communist, it should have been for Russians.
Communist.
Can you drink vodka up there? You can? Okay, good.
But I got one more. I got one more smuggling incident, and this one's a little bit different from Scotch or Chocks or even corned beef Rubens. Welcome to The Wholesome Show, the science smuggling podcast
Oh, yeah.
for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
In which we will ask the ridiculous questions, dear listeners, so you do not have to. You know, I thought you'd forgotten to play the music.
I
You were
know
sitting
you
there
thought
going,
that.
How
You're
do
like-
I tell him?
What's going to happen?
Like, we'll edit it in post like we so often don't.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant.
And me, Dr. Roderick Griffin, I've been into space, but not quite. Lamberts.
Yeah, we just need to change the definition. It's just a definition.
It's true. If I jump high enough, then I've reached the, what is it, Carminosphere.
But did you know you're in space anyway?
Whoa. I'm actually moving at like 150,000 kilometers an hour right now.
You are. You should go to jail
Whoa.
for speeding that fast, man. Did you know? It's all,
Give me a ticket.
It's all relative, man. Whoa. The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And space.
Yeah, we
For those of you who didn't know, there's a lot of space out there.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah.
Shut the setter down.
Space is big, bigger than we'll ever know, bigger than we'll ever find out, which always blows my mind and makes me sad, but never mind.
But you don't know. Maybe shit will change
Maybe.
the day after we die.
Edgar Dean Ed Mitchell, surprising shortening of Edgar down to Ed, was born
That
on...
wasn't actually what he was christened. Like, this is Edgar, Dean, Ed, Mitchell.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, you're going to end up with Ed, no matter what. Edgar Dean,
Why not Gar?
or Mitch, or
No, call me Gar. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to call you Ed. You fucking idiot.
was born on the 17th of September 1930 in Hereford, Texas. He came from a ranching family, and they'd moved to New
He had no
Mexico.
choice.
Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Let's go to Texas.
1930 in Texas. What do you do? What do you think?
So they'd moved to New Mexico during the Depression, and then grew up in a town called Artesia, New Mexico, which is just near Roswell for any alien
Coincidence?
conspiracists.
I think not.
No, not at all. It can't be a coincidence. And Artesia.
Because there's no such thing.
So he first learned to fly airplanes at the age of 13, which is pretty
Not
damn
his own.
awesome. No.
So during World War II, he learned how to fly airplanes.
1943.
Boom. That's
but
maths.
Too young to nice work. Too young to go to war, but definitely learned to fly, which is awesome. Like 13.
Yeah.
He received his private pilot's license at 16, which is awesome. He was active in the Boy Scouts of America, in which he achieved its second highest rank, which is Life Scout. And initially, I thought that
What?
initially I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, because I knew. Just a little spoiler, he turns out to be an astronaut.
I don't want to hear anymore. What's higher than Life Scout?
Eagle
Infinity
Scout.
Scout.
Eagle
Immortal.
Scout. Eagle Scout. Now, I thought initially, okay, second highest rank, man. Like above that will be King Scout, like Lord Emperor Scout. You can,
Yeah.
You know, and to do that, you've got to go to the moon twice and whatever.
And be Jesus.
Yeah. Tie
They're a
knots,
very Christian
tie knots
organisation.
in Jesus' beard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought, but no, to be Life Scout, which is the second highest rank. This is in the Boy Scouts of America. I don't know other rankings here. The Scout serves actively in the troop, team, or crew in a position of responsibility for 6 months, has been awarded 11 merit badges, and performs 6 hours of community service.
So fuck all. Also, shit name. Life Scout. That's why everyone wanted to be an Eagle Scout, because you want to
know.
get rid of the dumb name. I'm a Life Scout. Sorry.
Eagle Scout is way better. I really think
Surely
that
it should be like, you're a Badger Scout, or you're like an opossum. At least you're an animal or something with attitude. Even a raccoon or a rat Scout would be better.
Wolverine Scout.
Wolverine Scout. Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Okay.
Life
Well,
Scout.
I thought Life Scout might have been like you give people the life membership of the political party or something like that because you did. I thought they could have retrospectively said, okay, you got the going to the moon badge. Another spoiler, he gets to go to the moon. I would have thought that they'd give him moon badge. You're automatically the best Boy Scout there is. So,
But also, 6 months service, couple of badges. One could be for knitting, one could be for folding paper into the shape of a square.
yes.
Like, it doesn't sound hard to become a Life Scout.
No, it doesn't. I have not achieved it. So, and have you
I
achieved
didn't
it?
say everyone's done it. But I mean, also you don't have a pilot's license at 16.
No. Well, and
Surely that should have been instant Life
look,
Scout.
that I was impressed with. That's pretty cool. So 2 million people have become Eagle Scouts. So not super impressive. But he was also a member of the De Mole International, which is basically the youth club of the Masons. I don't know if you knew that, but there's youth.
I'm a member, but I'm not allowed to tell you.
Of course you're not. Well, I'll just tell you the history, and you just have to nod.
I'll tell you if you're
along.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's youth Masons, and he was inducted into its Hall of Fame there, which is
Ironic for a secret society.
well, it's a secret hall. It's a secret hall of secret fame.
Less a hall, more like a hole in the ground with a locked lid on top of it, and no one's allowed to know, but you're in there.
He enjoyed handball, tennis, swimming, and his hobbies included scuba diving and soaring. I don't know why he didn't enjoy them as well as hobbies, but
Soaring.
soaring, it's gliding.
Oh, not like cutting things.
Probably not.
Got any hobbies? Oh, I cut stuff.
Just do a lot of cutting.
Look at that bit of wood. I can make that into 2 bits. Oh, no, you don't have to thank me. I want to do it. I got some time to kill.
To be honest, I like soaring. I like soaring.
Gliding I get, but but soaring, I'm not against it. It's just I wouldn't say it's a hobby.
But
Gliding I can
yeah,
see.
okay, I'll change that to gliding. We'll make him a glider. And he graduated high school, Artesia High School, in 1948, which again, remember he got his pilot's license 5 years before he graduated. 2 years before he graduated, but he was flying planes 5 years before he graduated from high school.
So how he went to school?
God,
Landing
I
his
hope
flock
so.
of friendship.
God, I hope so.
There's Gar again. I mean, Ed, sorry.
Yeah, look, the whole attitude of flight back then when it was way less safe, but way more democratized is just, I'm so jealous.
These yo-yos, I mean, it's basically balsa wood, bits of canvas, and a wicker chair. Like, not the best way to go for a fly,
Okay.
but they could fly.
After that, he went and did a bachelor degree in industrial management from what would later become Carnegie Mellon University, and he entered the Navy.
As all people interested in flying should do.
Well, look, he did become a naval naval aviator. So you can go Air Force or naval aviator in America.
There are army pilots too.
Are there? Well, there you go. So they got
I know,
pilots
like-
everywhere.
So, like, we're the Air Force.
What about the
Stiff shit.
Marines? Do the Marines have pilots?
I think they're the only ones who don't because they're too pure.
Yeah,
Even Space Force doesn't have pilots.
doesn't it? Must
They
have.
only got admin.
That's so sad.
Nothing
for
but bureaucrats.
They're shaping the strategic environment with bureaucrats, though.
Yes.
So
Strategic
where'd he go?
landscape.
He was doing patrol planes in Okinawa for a couple of years. Then he went and he was flying the
Did you say Okinawa?
Okinawa.
Okinawa?
Okinawa is often what I've heard is the American pronunciation.
That's what
But
the hippies say. Yeah, I know.
I've spoken to a Japanese gentleman once who corrected me to be Okinawa.
I've never heard it said that way,
know,
even
right?
in Japan.
Wow.
That guy was on the drugs.
Look, maybe he was teasing me. So
I reckon he was.
I'll go back to Okinawa then. Just to leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Okinawa?
Yeah, leave me alone, man. Anyway,
No, say it. Do more Australian next time. Carry
okay.
on.
So where's he going? He's flying some A3D Sky Warriors.
Oh, what a great name.
I know. I only put that in because I like the name. Aboard a couple of aircraft carriers. The beautifully named USS Bonhomme Richard, and
You're kidding.
that was an aircraft carrier. Bonhomme basically means good fellow Richard, or
My buddy Dick.
yeah, Bonhomme. Indeed.
Which boat are you on? I'm on the Dick one.
Oh god. And the US Ticonderoga, which that sounds cool.
That sounds more Native American.
So then from there, he went into the Air Development Squadron. While he was in the Navy, he went and did a second bachelor's degree in aeronautics in 1961, and then, and this will come up again later, a doctorate of science in aeronautics and astronautics from MIT, which is good university. Good university. So
I've heard of it. Yeah.
his doctoral thesis was on space vehicle guidance, which actually became very useful for him later on.
It would be. Yeah.
Following his completion of his graduate studies, he served as the Chief Project Management Division for the Manned Orbiting Laboratory from 1964 to 1965. This is a program that never got up, and this is not the story here, but I loved discovering this. It was called a laboratory, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, but it was an early military plan for a space station that got a fair weight, not off the ground, but in terms of building and planning and design. One version of it was that it would be staffed by 40 military personnel constantly floating up there as a command bunker in case the Pentagon was taken out in a nuclear strike or something like that. And I love this.
Oh, honestly, that's cool. I mean, I'm against the military and blah, blah, blah. I'm a pacifist. But that's freaking cool.
I know, right? And they got a long way along on this planning. They went a fair way. And here we go. But as the 1960s went on, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory competed with the Vietnam War for funds and resultant budget cuts. And the Vietnam War was a pretty big thing. So they were talking that this was a fairly large budgetary program.
But also, I mean, that's true, and I agree with the the egghead side of that. But the annoying part of that is it's more important to fight the myth of communism and the domino theory. Well, was it domino effect of one country falls and all the others fall, than to have permanently orbiting awesome space stations
that were militarized.
Yeah, but it's a start. It's a start. At least there's peeps up there all the time, and there's many of them, and it's functional. Treating it like a normal part of the world, like it's an office up there.
Look, I got to say, it does make me happy that there are constantly humans that are not touching the ground up there in space, keeping a watchful eye on us or something.
Also, the 60s were way cooler at imagining space than any other decade ever. Like the way they envisaged space, the way they represented it fictionally.
Yes.
Cool as hell.
Oh, totally.
And we've lost it since then.
I want to live in a 60s version of 2020, not a 2020 version of 2020.
Hell yes. But we don't.
Okay. What was he doing? He then became a test pilot in the Navy's Research Pilot School, graduating first in his class. So he was an awesome test pilot. While he was a test pilot, he was also an instructor in advanced mathematics and navigation theory for astronaut candidates. Heaps of flight time, like 5,000 hours of flight time, 2,000 hours in jet aircraft. So he was, what's the best of the best, or the
Eagle Scout. Was he handsome?
Jesus Christ!
Seriously, triple threat. He's smart. He's action boy, and if he's pretty.
I've got a picture of him from when he was much older, and he was not pretty then.
But can you imagine? Like, do you look at him and go, "Ee, would have been hot"?
I am remiss in my duties here.
So maybe he's only a double threat, not a triple threat. Then
let's assume he was at least he was fit and squared away.
Let's go 6.5 out of 10 at least. I'll give him, he's a credit. If we're not sure, give him the average. That's fair.
We'll come back to that. We will come back to that. In 1966, Mitchell was selected as part of NASA's fifth astronaut group. So they'd had the Mercury program, the Gemini program, and this was coming up for Apollo. So he was first assigned to be a support crew for Apollo 9, then was designated as backup lunar module pilot for Apollo 10. This placed him in rotation for Apollo 13, but his boss, his commander, Alan Shepard, was grounded for medical problems, so they shifted him onto Apollo 14, which was lucky, given that Apollo 13 turned out to be pretty bad. And in fact,
but if he'd been in Apollo 13, he would have been in a movie, so that's something.
That's true. And he might actually be in the Apollo 13 movie because he won a Presidential Medal of Freedom for the work he did on the ground, helping the Apollo crew to... I mean, remember he did his PhD thesis on guidance. He designed a way to work out how they could help flight when the command module and the service module weren't working and stuff like that up there in space. So I got
to say, Medal of Freedom is a high rank. It's just a dumb word. Why not the Presidential Medal of Awesome? Or, yay for you. Presidential Medal of Freedom. Again, it sounds lame. What did you do? You broke people out of prison? Like, it just doesn't connect with being awesome.
Sure. I mean,
I'm a life scout and I've won a Medal of Freedom.
What's Australia's highest award? Is the
top bloke?
No, it's the Knight Commander or the Dame Commander in the Order of Australia. So you can be, a dame or a knight, We've
I'd
only-
rather be a knight than a Medal of Freedomist.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Knight sounds cool. At least you imagine something cool. If you say, I've got a Medal of Freedom, you're like, I don't even know what that means.
But we can't do knights anymore because Tony Abbott ruined it. He both. Yeah.
yeah, by knighting a prince. Fucking moron. You know, details.
Okay. All right.
Imagine that, though. I'm already a prince. And now you're a knight. Thanks.
Don't you know how this works?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Tones.
So, Mitchell was selected to serve as the lunar module pilot on Apollo 14. So, all the Apollo missions would have 3 people. There's the commander, the boss, the lunar module pilot, and the command module pilot. So the command module pilot would stay above the moon, and the lunar module would go down. So he gets to go on the moon, but he's the pilot for that bit, which is cool. That's awesome. And as he later described it, it happened about 3 weeks before the mission. I met some research physicists, Dr. Boyle and Dr. Maxey, who were very interested in the field and suggested to me that this would be an ideal time to do the experiment. No one had ever done them at this distance, the distance that we're talking about here, out in space. The question was whether the effect fell off with distance. People had thought about this, but no one had ever proved it at distances of hundreds of thousands of miles. So
You're trying to pretend this is ejaculation, but I think it isn't.
I'm not trying to pretend anything. I'm just
Yes, you are. I can see. Most people can't see you, and I can. You have a salacious look. And you're trying to make me think it's masturbation and ejaculation, and it is not.
It doesn't take you very much to think it's masturbation or ejaculation.
Fair call. I mean, when you bring in, 100,000 kilometers, I'm like, okay, that sounds a little bit of a stretch.
So we practiced a few times with the principals before the flight.
The principles?
Yeah. On January 31st, 1971, at 4:03:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Alan Shepard, Stuart Roosa, he's the command module pilot that doesn't get to go to the moon, and Edgar Mitchell launched on their 9-day mission to the moon. Now, after a series, there was a pretty bad malfunctions. In fact, this mission was almost aborted midway as well as Apollo 13. That's not the story I'm going to go into right now, but supposedly they nearly had to turn this damn thing around because stuff went wrong again, which would have been pretty bad for NASA. But they got to the moon on February the 5th and landed in the Fra Mauro Highlands. Yeah, I know. Somewhere on the moon. I don't know why people tell me
up
that.
there.
Like
Where'd
on
you
the
land?
moon.
Over there.
So they took 2 walks on the surface. They were there for 9 hours, I think. They collected 42.8 kilograms of moon rocks and deployed some scientific experiments. They were also they did the longest walk on the moon, and they drove some awesome moon buggy stuff. This is peak moon buggy. They are hooning around.
That looks like an absolute hoot.
Off the charts.
Like even if you get it sideways and flip it, you're like, I'm just going to float and land.
Like seriously, if there is one thing in life to achieve, it's moon buggy driving. That would.
I'll take it. Yeah. Okay, that might be worth getting in a tin can with a Casio watch.
Yeah. Like just. I'm not normally a car person. It's not like I'm a 4-wheel drive person or anything like that. But
You don't need to be.
but driving around on the moon, that's yeah. Yeah, they also, a couple of things, there was one of the most famous photos of the moon. There's a picture of like one astronaut, that was Shepard holding up the flag, and Mitchell took...
Fake photos.
Yeah, that one. But Mitchell took the photo, and the background is, there's no stars, but you can see his shadow and stuff like that. That's Mitchell's photo. It's voted the best astronaut selfie, even though it's not a selfie. I don't know. Shepard hit 2 golf balls that he'd brought with him with a makeshift club.
I love that.
I assume that they were okayed by NASA. I don't think that was what they smuggled. But Mitchell...
Well, you'd smuggle golf balls. I mean, you'd be like, yes, I've always had 4. Now let's keep going.
Stop it. But Mitchell did smuggle something aboard. My experiment involved 4 sessions during rest periods programmed into the flight. I did this when I was ready to go to sleep at night. So remember that it takes a few days, like 4 or 5 days to fly to the moon. 4 days to fly, 1 day on the moon, 4 days to fly back. So it's a long bus trip. I did this when I was ready to go to sleep at night. We had sleeping bag hammocks that we would put underneath the couches. I don't know where the couches are. Couches is such a weird word to describe the stuff you can fit into a
tiny little tin can.
Yeah, with couches. Anyway, 2 of us would go to sleep in a hammock while the other one would be on watch in case of aliens or something. I would do the experiment before going into my sleeping bag. In each of these sessions, Mitchell would bring out a small card, and this is what he'd smuggled aboard. So the card was small note cards that.
Oh, we're going psychic experiments.
Oh yeah, we're going
Oh,
psychic. That's it. So they're covered in random numbers and what's called Zener symbols. So a Zener symbol is something that's been used a lot in psychic research or parapsychology. So these are...
That's gold.
They're just a hollow circle, a plus sign, 3 vertical wavy lines,
The wavy
hollow
lines,
square,
triangle and shit. Yeah,
and a
yeah,
5-pointed star. So they're just nice and unambiguous. So you know you can see what they all are. You can describe them pretty easily, and they're great for testing psychic powers because you can see what they are. Anyway, for each transmission, I would check a particular table of random numbers and then think about the corresponding symbol for 15 seconds. Each transmission took about 6 minutes. So he would do 200 symbols. Was that right? No, I think it ended at maybe 100 symbols each time, and he did it 8 times, something like that. 4 people on Earth would receive the sequence of symbols and write them down. Now, we'll come back to this point, but we tried to coordinate time in which Mitchell would send the psychic message and the receivers would receive them, but they stuffed up because the launch was 40 minutes late and the psychic receivers didn't know that, so they didn't try for an exact time, they just did it in the evening sometime.
Well, psychics like that, let's not restrict it to everyday human clocks, man.
Exactly. Don't
It's
be
a
bound by
feeling,
time.
it's a vibe. Yeah.
He said that he told the 4 other participants that he would try the experiment on 6 specific occasions, but he only actually found the full 20-minute time on 4 occasions. So there's not perfect experimental conditions, but he's driving a spaceship through the void. So let's forgive him. So basically, here's his experiment. He's flying between here and the moon, hundreds of thousands of miles, and he's psychically beaming the images, the Zener symbols, the star, the wavy line, the circle, the square, back to these 4 recipients on Earth. Did it work?
Are they human?
Are they human? Yes.
The
Yes.
dolphins.
Human people. No, not the the dolphins all got them, but we forgot to test that.
Well, they're very psychic, yeah.
So Mitchell reckons it did. So
No one does these and doesn't reckon they did.
no, I know, right? I know. So
And you know how you know it works? You just know.
yeah, exactly. It was psychically right. In fact, you know how it works? We'll come back to that in a little bit because there's some awesome stats, but some also some awesome experimental justification. So this comes from an interview that Mitchell did a while later when he was running an institute, and also from his journal paper that he published in the Journal of Parapsychology in 1971, which was just the year after, was it? Or even later that year. Which this journal title it's an awesome one. The Journal of Parapsychology, and his title of the article, an ESP test from Apollo 14, which is just slamming it down. You know what I do?
Yeah, it's true. What do the reviewers say? Who fucking cares? It's going in. Boom.
We're competing with the other Journal of Parapsychology. We need this paper.
It's also, okay, what I'm going to do first is compare it to all the other ESP experiments done from space to Earth. Yeah, I went into space. That's my journal. That's my article title. It doesn't matter what's in it. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's published. Sadly for Mitchell's H index, I think it's only been cited 14 or 15 times.
Now again,
I don't
16.
I don't know if Web of Science is accurately counting these things. So anyway, he claims that it did. He said, we found an acceptable, significant result. What he found was an acceptable, significant result in other sciences, but parapsychology is more conservative and considers such odds as only suggestive or extra chance performance. So other people would say this is successful. Me, I'm just going to be a little bit conservative here.
No. We're serious science.
So here we go. Of course, one experiment doesn't make anything change, but it did show that what had worked in the laboratory before also worked in space with the same very positive results. Professionals in the fields thought it was very significant. In telepathy, space doesn't matter. Now, we understand this very well, and we have the science now to show exactly how it works. It has nothing to do with space and time. It's what we call non-local communication.
Hell yeah. So was he a registered telepath as well, though? Like, did they know he was telepathic?
I don't know if he was a registered telepath. In fact, I think he was only because he was approached 3 weeks before the launch. I don't think he was. He said later he'd always been interested in the field, but I don't know if he'd actually taken any steps.
This is where the Freemasons come in.
Yeah, maybe
it's all coming together now.
But it seems like they came to him and said, "Hey, do you want to do a test in space?" And he didn't even give them co-author names on the journal article. It's just
he's a monster.
Yeah, I know, right? Like it was their idea.
No telepath.
I mean, he did all the work from the space lab, and smuggled shit under the eye of NASA.
But who's going to be there anyway? It's like, do you mind taking this cocaine with you to Costa Rica? It's
true.
You're going there anyway, right? Yeah, so whatever. You just stick a couple of these in your bob.
He's the mule for psychic research in space under NASA's auspices.
And cards, not heavy, much lighter than a corned beef sandwich.
Indeed, they literally were. So, and probably much less dangerous to air filtration systems and things like that.
Yeah, but if you ate them.
All right, so let's look at his numbers and put your stats brain on here, Rod, because this is going to get not very complicated. He stated that after the mission that 2 of the 4 people on Earth had got 51 out of 200 symbols correct. Now, random chance would say you'd get 40 right. So, there's 5 possible symbols. 20% would be right. So that's 40 out of 200. 2 of them had got 51. The others
half got half.
Yes.
Okay.
Half did better than chance.
Half of 4 got half.
Yes.
Okay.
No, they didn't get half. They got a bit better than chance. So half.
You said 50. Oh no, that's right. 51 out of 400.
Out of 200. 51 out of 200.
So half got 25%.
Yes.
Which is better than chance a bit.
Yes. And the other half.
I'm convinced.
The other half.
I'm convinced with the conclusion that space has not affected the efficacy of telepathy.
Indeed.
I am convinced.
Yeah. If we take the same skepticism of telepathy anywhere, it was just as likely. So
these results are no worse than them.
So 2 others were less than successful. So basically, it was basically random chance. Some will do better and some will do worse. But he published this and said that this is a good example of ESP happening in space.
Well, again, see aforementioned. I went into space and did this. Boom. That's it.
But you know what? A publication is not the goal here. It's, do some actual science. So, and remember, he had a doctorate in aeronautics and astronautics, which from MIT, which I would assume involves some maths. And he taught advanced maths at the Research Pilot School.
You can do both. I mean, I was a big fan of astrology, and there's a part of me that still has a soft spot for it.
I get it. Have a soft spot, but you got to be pretty credulous to go. Yeah, it worked for half of the people. And the other people, they didn't work on them because it didn't.
Oh, they were not fully in tune. Oh, the clock difference, the 40-minute clock.
Well, here's the thing. It's all it's worth saying here that all of the guesses were probably made on Earth before Mitchell actually sat down with his cards at night.
Precognitive telepathy.
Exactly. And so Mitchell actually
This is even better. Okay, now I'm more convinced. That adds an extra level of veracity because it was precognitive.
That's what he said. He said that, that actually adds to the psychic powers because they guessed ahead of time.
He's not wrong. How can you argue with that? I cannot argue with that thinking.
So, how did NASA react? Even though the material was smart.
Sorry, it took me a moment. How did NASA react? He did what?
Well,
he's published, huh?
Right.
Okay. People know about this. Do I need to talk to the president?
You're ruining our brand, man.
You can imagine.
Apparently, they weren't bothered. So even though the material was smuggled on board and the tests were unsanctioned by NASA, they didn't mind too much. Like they were mostly, they're thinking about risk to the mission. They're not thinking about political consequences or other things. They're like a couple of bits of cardboard, and he sat there and thought about some shapes for 5 minutes every night. Whatever.
True. I'm glad to hear that. Actually, that shows them to be quite civilized human beings.
And in fact, there were a whole bunch of people at NASA that were really quite interested. So, in fact, Werner von Braun, famous.
Oh, the infamous Nazi, non-Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. Rocket scientist. Most
I
famous.
was rockets for the Führer, and now I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then rockets for NASA. And then he was totally interested. And supposedly a bunch of people would come into his office, Mitchell's office, close the door and say, "Tell me about it. Tell me about your ESP from space." And no one was really that bothered.
As if you wouldn't. Like, honestly, you imagine if we were at work and someone said, "I've done these ESP things." Like, you fucking awesome. Tell me.
Give me the good stuff.
Just tell me. Yeah, we're going to have a meeting about the PhD program in the university. And what happened to the ESP?
Yeah, but come on. Yeah, we got basically chance. Yeah. So
Yeah, but before it happened. So that's pretty much like a 98% success rate if you factor in the temporals.
So Werner was really intrigued. Werner said, we should do a survey of NASA installations to see if there are any place that would be useful and appropriate for us to do more of this work, to further these studies in a deeper way. Like
He's not wrong.
I'm just loving this idea that Werner von Braun might steer NASA's direction towards ESP research. Sadly, both Werner von Braun and Mitchell left NASA before that was accomplished.
Losers. That's why he was never an Eagle Scout.
No, indeed. So
no staying power.
This was Mitchell's last space flight, but still, you ended on a big night. He went to the moon, so that was good. After he left in 1972, he formed a company to promote ecologically pure products and services designed to alleviate planetary problems. Not sure what that means. And then he launched...
Tinea.
Maybe.
Tinea is a big global issue.
Yeah, probably.
It's gone unnoticed since Corona and climate change, but, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Spare a thought.
Sure. He launched an Institute of Noetic Sciences and the Mind Science Institute for the purpose of consciousness research and other related phenomena. So he said that science and religion have lived on opposite sides of the street now for hundreds of years. So here we are trying to put two faces to reality, the existence face and the intelligence or conscience face into the same understanding. Body and mind.
Yeah.
Physicality and consciousness belong on the same side of reality. But here's what I love. It was science and religion, but he had little thoughts about putting this stuff to military use. So
the men who stare at goats.
Indeed. So that is not the story here today. I'm not going to tell you that story. But Mitchell's Mind Science Institute was apparently employed by the CIA at some point for secret payments to people like Uri Geller and things like that. And at one point...
to be fair, I can't even spell MK Ultra, but if I could...
Indeed.
Yeah.
At one point, they were trying to get then CIA Director George H.W. Bush to fund some remote viewing work where they could secretly view into the Soviet secrets, which is, and this is the story. Like, Bush said no, but said, why don't you go for military sponsorship? And this led to the formation of the Stargate project in 1978, which is the men who stare at goats.
Also, to be fair, why wouldn't you? Unless you knew otherwise, why the fuck wouldn't you check it out?
Look,
we can mock and carry on, and of course we do. And
I've never mocked anyone.
Me neither. I'm a mockless
supportive.
human. I was born without mock. But if you didn't check that shit out, you would actually have been a bit negligent.
No, absolutely. And you think, their defense budget is hundreds of billions of dollars.
Brazilian.
And they are in a deep existential threat with someone that could wipe them out straight away. Yeah. Let's spend $1 million or so here on some wacky stuff. So look, I support that, but
do you know what kind of proves that it did work? Because they've made it sound dumb.
Oh, look at you.
They're remote viewing us right now in case we're giving away too much.
Mitchell died in 2016 at the age of 85. I don't know if he saw it coming, but it was on the 45th anniversary of his lunar landing. There now remain 4 people alive, I think, who have walked on the moon out of the 12 original ones who have been there. So there you go.
4.
ESP in space.
That's gold. You've made me very happy. I was having an annoying week.
There you go.
But this is a great way to end it. Some delicious New Zealand dark beer and ESP in space.
Well, I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you.
I think we should launch a Patreon into doing that more. Look, Elon Musk would be on board.
Of course he would. Of course he would.
I mean, really. Then you get Richard Branson because he's into all anything that's hip, and
they
George
could ESP
Bezos.
to each other, and they could and you know what they could say? What am I thinking of? What am I thinking? It's myself.
It's money.
Go, hey,
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the two things, and so they'll be 50% right any time.
And
You're
if you could say
thinking
it
of
before
me,
you
aren't
asked
you,
it.
Elon?
Oh, God. No, surely Elon would be in.
Oh, of course he would.
Elon, we just need $400 million. Screw it. 200.
He could do
What
it
the hell?
when he gets to Mars. He can ESP some stuff back to people on Earth. He can send ESP to Grimes or something like that.
I'm okay with that. We don't have to worry about radio signals being slow then.
Oh no,
Or
no,
lasers having to line up.
no. They'll use quantum entanglement to make a space internet that is instant. Didn't you know that?
God, that'd be boring though. What does it say? Up, down, down, up. Hang on a minute. It's going to take me a
Joe,
year to
knock it,
decide.
man. It's going to be beautiful.
It's pretty much still binary though. It all comes back
That's
to on or
how.
off.
Yeah, I know.
Whoa.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and him, Rod Lamberts, and is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
Even before we knew it.
We'll see you next week, listener.